President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced that Ukraine is preparing new sanctions against Russia, targeting the country's military production and propaganda networks. The goal is to completely cut off international contacts for all Russian entities supporting the war. He also confirmed that Ukraine will synchronize its measures with the European Union's 19th sanctions package, and that diplomats are already working with non-EU countries to expand the restrictions. The president added that preparation for the 20th EU sanctions package against Russia has also begun, and once again stressed, Moscow must end the war or its oil exports must end instead. The huge obstacle is China, that are growing its role in undermining global sanctions, saying Beijing has sharply increased imports of Russian energy resources.
For example, China imported $120 billion worth of energy. Imagine this. The United States imposes sanctions that may cut Russia's revenues by $50 billion, while China alone imports $120 billion. They are the biggest player, a key helper in this war. That's a fact. $120 billion is a serious amount of money, and it shows just how massive this support is.
For the first time, it was officially confirmed that one of Russia's 3 Oreshnik missile systems was destroyed on Russian territory at the Kapustin Yar testing range in a joint operation by the SBU, the Defense Intelligence, and the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine. That strike happened long before the weapon's name became publicly known. Officials say that 25 Russian companies are involved in the production of Oreshnik systems, yet none of them are currently under international sanctions.
Until now, we had never mentioned this publicly, but briefly and clearly I can say, one of the 3 Oreshnik systems was successfully destroyed on their territory at Kapustin Yar by the combined forces of the Defense Intelligence, the SBU, and the Foreign Intelligence Service. This was an important and very successful mission. And at that time, we didn't say a single word about it.
Nuclear tensions rise. Putin and Trump pushed the world toward a new, unpredictable era. According to CNN, the world is once again on the brink of a new Cold War. Just hours after dictator Putin boasted of a successful test of Russia's Poseidon nuclear torpedo, U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he had ordered the Pentagon to resume nuclear weapons testing for the first time in decades. Putin's Poseidon, a nuclear-powered torpedo with exceptional range and near-impossible interception, was presented as proof of Russia's growing might. The Kremlin also signaled the deployment of the Sarmat missile system, known as Satan II, and claimed a successful test of the Burevestnik nuclear cruise missile. Analysts told CNN that these statements are aimed at exerting pressure on the West and Ukraine rather than demonstrating real technological breakthroughs. Experts believe Moscow's nuclear rhetoric is designed to intimidate and influence Washington and its allies, pushing for concessions over Ukraine. When these threats fail to yield results, the Kremlin staged demonstrative nuclear drills involving land, sea, and air-launched missiles. CNN notes that Washington's response has now shifted. Trump's decision to revive nuclear testing for the first time signal a tougher stance against Moscow. The report also highlights the timing. The last major nuclear arms control treaty, New START, expires in February 2026. Without a new agreement, the US and Russia could enter a new arms race. What may have started as a Kremlin show of force, CNN concludes, is now dragging the world into a dangerous and unpredictable era.
Experts warn that if America restarts its test, it could see China and Russia follow suit. Now, that's not to say that there hasn't been some push by Moscow over nuclear weapons. They have been threatening nuclear weapons use as their war in Ukraine has dragged on, and Moscow also has tested a nuclear-powered cruise missile in recent days as well. That's really raised concerns about nuclear proliferation in the wider world. The Chinese as well have dug more nuclear missile weapon silos in the desert.
In Washington, Congress is split over President Trump's decision to restart nuclear weapons testing, something he says is meant to send a warning to Moscow. Republicans call it a show of strength and support the move. Democrats warn it's dangerous and unnecessary, saying new tests could spark an arms race and push China to follow. Russians are relentlessly shelling the Ukrainian city of Sumy. They have launched another wave of drone attacks and hit a Ukrzaliznytsia train depot, destroying most of the working facilities and damaging a passenger train running between Sumy and Kyiv. Further east, in the Kharkiv region, the city of Lozova also came under attack, with several parts of its railway infrastructure damaged. And in Sumy itself, Russians are relentlessly shelling the city. Overnight strikes hit residential areas and key infrastructure, injuring at least 11 people, including 4 children. A 9-story apartment building caught fire after a direct hit. Rescuers managed to pull 12 residents to safety as several apartments and balconies burned. Private homes and utility buildings were also hit, and the blast wave shattered windows across several districts. Local authorities say the heaviest destruction was at an infrastructure facility. The fires are now contained, but the city remains in shock. And once again, Russia's targets were not military, but civilian. Last week, Russian drones hit a kindergarten in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, while children were still inside. 1 person was killed and 6 were injured, though none of the children were physically harmed. At a secret location somewhere in rural Ukraine, long-range attack drones are being assembled and launched under the cover of darkness. Their mission to strike deep inside Russia, hitting oil refineries, fuel depot, and logistic hubs that keep the war running. Since the summer, Ukraine's drone campaign has expanded dramatically, forcing Moscow to stretch its air defenses across vast distances. Most of these drones are built locally in small workshops, often from improvised parts. But they now fly farther than ever before, reaching targets up to 1,000 kilometers away. Commanders say the success of each mission depends on 3 things: the technology, the planning, and the people behind it. The strikes have already caused fuel shortages inside Russia. Still, this is not just about technology. It's about how the war itself is changing, with unmanned vehicles increasingly taking over the battlefield.
The war will reach a point where there will be a 20 to 30 kilometer kill zone. There will be certain approaches to this zone, and everything living on both sides will be destroyed in this zone by unmanned vehicles. And it will all come to the point where the price of passing through, in terms of human and technical losses, will be disproportionate to the distance that can be covered.
U.S. President Donald Trump is making headlines in Asia this week, signing new trade deals, including agreements on rare earth minerals. Journalists from the Associated Press explain that these minerals are essential for modern life, powering electric cars, smartphones, medical devices, and even military systems. Right now, China dominates the market, producing more than 60% of the world's supply and processing over 90% of it. Beijing has restricted exports this year, making it harder for the U.S. to access these resources and deepening the trade tensions. Despite their name, rare earths aren't actually rare. They are just difficult and expensive to extract. That's why President Trump is now seeking new trade partners to reduce America's dependence on China and secure the materials that keep the modern world running.
China has made it extremely difficult for the U.S. to get access to its swath of rare earths minerals this year through suspending shipments and restrictions on exports, actions which have really escalated the trade war with President Donald Trump.
Saab is preparing to expand production of its Gripen fighter jets, and Ukraine may be one of the reasons why. According to City News Canada, the Swedish company is considering opening a new manufacturing site in Canada as a global demand for Gripen aircraft grows and Ukraine shows increasing interest. Canada's Industry Minister Melanie Joly called the talks with Saab good news, noting that cooperation already includes projects based on Saab's early warning aircraft. The company says Canada is becoming a key market as it looks to boost production capacity in both Europe and North America. This also follows Sweden and Ukraine signing a letter of intent for the possible delivery of up to 150 Gripen fighters, though no contact has yet been finalized. That's all for now. For more content, please subscribe.